I would like to call the General Services Committee to order. I move that the November 21, 2023 meeting minutes, which were distributed to committee members, are approved as recorded. Can I get a second? Thank you, Josh. Any discussion? Okay. We have a presentation today from Ryan. Ryan, before we start, I would like to start off first. Okay. Thank you. I just want to say this is a very sad day for Lewis County. Larry Leindecker was one of our own. Larry worked at Solid Waste for many years. He was always a joy to be around and had a big smile. As Kip said to me this morning, Larry was the man out front. He will be missed. Please pray for Larry's family, the community, the Solid Waste team, and all of Larry's friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. We're going to run through the goals that have been, at this point, they're draft goals for the General Services Committee. So just a reminder that we started this process back in December. We asked legislators and department heads to consider some initiatives for the upcoming legislative term. We distributed draft goals to the legislators at the January 2nd meeting. Between the 2nd and the 16th, we had some feedback. Several legislators and some department heads reached out, and we edited the goals to reflect that feedback. Today, of course, January 16th, the draft goals are to be discussed and hopefully, if you feel comfortable, adopted by the committees. And then they would go forward for complete adoption by the board on February 6th. So these are not in any particular order, I would say. Some are goals that are continuing from the previous term. Some are new. So the first thing on our list for General Services is continue the EMS Ad Hoc Committee. We've had a lot of great success with that. Legislator Nellenbeck and Bob McKenzie continue to lead that effort. We've got some great things on the horizon. We've got the BOCES program that's supposed to launch this fall. We've got a New York State expert on some EMS, volunteer EMS and fire issues that's working with us on some ideas to compensate some of our volunteers. And then we've got our Friends Park Strategies. There's actually some legislation in Albany that would be helpful to us that we want to make sure we track and promote. And I would add, any questions, discussion, or anybody that wants to chime in throughout any of these, please feel free. The second thing on our list is to execute the courthouse renovation project. Matt O'Connor, our Buildings and Grounds Supervisor, will be leading that charge. So this is part of a larger project, right? So we've got HVAC issues in this building that we need to address. So the first step is to rearrange our floor plan. So we don't want to go into 2025 or 2026 doing new HVAC and then move offices and walls around, because that would defeat the purpose of having new HVAC. So this is the first step, along with moving forward with some of the engineering and planning so that we can bid it out. So our hope is to bid this out towards the end of the year and take a look at the price, and then we can decide what to do from there. Complete Board of Elections and Outdoor Services renovation project. So this is part of our ongoing capital project. The building project team has been involved with that. Most recently, Andrea and Tom started attending those meetings, but Josh and Larry and Tom Osborne have been involved as well. So actually, Board of Elections is moving today. They're moving right now into their new space. That'll happen today and tomorrow. And then we will have left to complete the outdoor services building and move recreation, forestry, and parks and soil and water into there. And then project closeout is going to still take a lot of county effort. We want to make sure that we have good, accurate as-built drawings. That's something that we haven't been so good at in the past, is making sure that we have drawings that accurately reflect what was built. And then, of course, we need to have some ribbon cuttings. Open Singing Waters Park. This initiative will be led by Jackie Mahoney. We have to bid out and complete the potable water system. So the Department of Health has really changed our expectations for what we thought we were going to need at that park. But we do need to have potable water there, and we do need to have an on-site treatment system. So we still have a little bit of work left to do. We'll be bidding that out soon. Then once from there, we can finish the landscaping, and then we'll be open. Develop Rails to Trails master plan. At first, for lead on this, I had everyone, but it is helpful to have a few, names to keep track of. So Cassie, Tim, and Jackie, and myself, and the legislators are the folks that need to be prioritizing this. This is probably one of our most important initiatives, I would think, for this committee. There's a lot of public interest, obviously, in this project. We want to prioritize engaging with the public and our municipal partners as well. We need to host community engagement events, which we plan on doing through the contract with Alta. That's why we hired them to help us with this process. We want to leverage their expertise. Alta has completed many Rails to Trails projects, so we need to listen to them and help them guide us. And the master plan is supposed to be done by the end of 2024. It wouldn't be surprising if it pushed into 2025 a little bit. And of course, we want to maintain an eye on future funding and grants. Thoughts on this? Okay. Continue ATV lobbying effort. The lead on this has been Larry. Larry's got a good relationship at this point with the folks at Park Strategies, and they kind of talk often. There's a couple ATV bills actually that have been introduced already in the legislative session. Interestingly, one of the bills is regarding the electrification of ATV all-terrain vehicles. So an interesting angle to get to the state to pay attention to this issue, but at least their eyes are on it for a reason that we would have never thought of. But anyway, they're paying attention. So there's a couple bills to track. We definitely want to get down to Albany again to talk to folks, and we got to continue to engage with our state and regional partners. We've actually developed a pretty great network of neighboring communities and clubs that are interested in this topic as well. And so we need to continue to bring that group together and make sure they're all supporting the right initiatives. Execute Glenfield Complete Streets project. This will be Tim and the Highway Department's project, but this is pretty substantial in the hamlet of Glenfield. We're talking about new asphalt, obviously the roads, new sidewalks, curbs, and storm drainage. So as a reminder, this is the first time that the county has taken full responsibility for our full highway right-of-way inside villages and hamlets, right? Typically, we would just repave and leave the storm drainage, curbs, sidewalk up to the town or village. But we're stepping up, and we'll see how this goes. If it goes well, then we'll, hopefully do the same in Constableville, Turin, Beaver Falls, and some of the other places where we have county roads. Review and revise junkyard local law. This will be Ward Daly and Joan McNichol working together on that, along with, I think, the members of our junkyard review board. John Jones has shown a lot of dedication and interest in this issue over the years. It almost seems, Andrea, like we've done this local law, 3 or 4 times
Since I was a judge.
Yeah. So, we need to keep refining it and find something that works. So, that's one thing we'd like to work on this year. Study strategies to maximize state and federal funding for highway infrastructure. Tim Hunt and Tom, Legislator Calamus, would be leading this initiative. It's a good year to be thinking about this kind of stuff because our snow and ice agreement with the towns is up at the end of the year. So we're going to need to be in negotiations with the towns at some point this year anyway. The thought process here is that Tim gave a presentation last year about bridges and how some of the town bridge infrastructure is falling behind. And we've started helping them with Bridge New York applications. Where else can the county leverage its expertise, its staff? We've got 300 staff. A lot of these towns have 2. how can we leverage our staff to and our maintenance abilities to maximize some of the resources that are available. So that's the thought process with that. Tom, anything to add? Okay, those are the goals that I've heard from the committee and from the legislators. If there's, of course, anything to add, subtract, or edit, we're happy to do so.
Thank you, Ryan. Is there any further discussion on this topic, these topics? Any good? Okay, Cassandra will read the draft resolutions, please.
Thank you. The first one is support of S 6098 and A 5744 bills to amend general municipal law to allow volunteer firefighters to receive call stipends and for the legislature to extend same to EMS ambulance volunteers.
Aye.
Authorizing supplemental agreement number 1 between Highway Department and CNS Engineers to provide additional engineering services for design and construction phases regarding the bridge replacement project identified as County Route 43 over Moose Creek for a term of October 18th, 2019 through December 31st, 2025 for the additional amount not to exceed $361,000, with 80% eligible for federal funds and 20% non-federal funds, for a total cost of $640,000 to CNS for this project.
All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries.
Authorizing supplemental agreement number 3 between Lewis County and New York State Department of Transportation for the design phase funding of the project known as County Route 43 over Moose Creek to receive and appropriate an additional $66,000 in the Capital Bridge Program account.
All in favor? Any nays? Motion carries.
Authorizing interfund loan financing and memorandum of understanding between Lewis County and Highway Department for county machinery and equipment funding adopted in the 2024 capital plan in an amount not to exceed $650,000 to be repaid to the county with no interest by annual installments over a 5-year period.
Any discussion? All in
Yes.
favor?
Yep.
Oops, sorry, Tom.
What is the fund balance?
Do you
right-
have your mic on, Tom?
Yep.
Thank you.
What is the fund balance right now that they'd be borrowing from?
The county general fund,
Yeah.
we're sitting around 24, 25 million, Eric. Yeah. So this is what we used to do here is borrow money from KeyBank for short-term loans. They used to give us short-term lending. We stopped doing that because it was costing us like 3 to 4% when we felt we could easily finance it in-house ourselves. So basically what this allows us to do is spread out our larger equipment purchases so that our capital spend every year is more even, right? So you're not buying a $600,000 piece of equipment one year and a $200,000 the next. Our budget stays relatively the same. So we kind of have been using that model the last
'Cause
few
it
years.
looks like in that 5-year window, you'll save probably close to 80 grand.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not the legal fees either.
Yep. Yeah, that was Eric's idea a couple, I think last year he said, why do we keep going to outside funding? We have plenty in-house. We can do it ourselves. So.
Okay, all in favor? Did I already say that? Any nays?
Fixing the date of a public hearing on the addition of approximately 3.5 miles of off-highway vehicle trail to the Lewis County OHV trail system for March 5th, 2024 at 5:00 p.m.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any nays? I thought I had it. I would like to make a motion. I move that the General Services Committee approve the proposed 2024-2025 General Services Committee goals and forward them to the full board for adoption. Could I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, there's no executive session. Anything else, Cassandra?
Andrea, if I could make a couple comments. Back on the resolution supporting the state effort to allow stipends for firefighters. What that is basically there's a bill in the state legislature now that would allow volunteer firefighters to be paid $50, up to $50 as a stipend for any volunteer call that they make. The problem is that it only affects firefighters, and it does not talk about ambulance or EMS providers to be allowed that same stipend. So that was our comments back to our lobbyists in Albany, that it would be nice to see the same, either this bill include the language to include EMS volunteers as well as firefighters, and that's where that sits at this point. So just for a little clarification on what's in Albany.
Thank you. Any other
Andrea?
discussion?
Just a point of order that you did have a second on your motion, but you didn't vote on the motion to adopt the general services goals.
Okay, so can we,
You just need a vote
I
on
just
it
need
now.
a second then?
You got a second from Mr. Frost, so you just need to vote on it.
You just
Okay.
need to ask all in favor.
All in favor? Any nays? Thank you. I believe concludes our committee meeting, unless anyone has more to add.